Step on up, sit down, twist off that bottle top or crack open that can. And welcome to Porch Matters. This is Terry Cagle coming to you from my back porch. Yes sir, yes ma'am, the name of this show is authentic. On Porch Matters, our saying is this: big issues are just a friendly conversation. No topic is off limits. We take pride in being able to talk about anything with each other in an open discussion. Open discussion is one of the only ways to learn. Your perspective could be changed. You could change the perspective of others. You can now find the show at Porch Matters Podcast on Instagram and at Porch Matters Pod on Twitter. As always, I want to say thank you for spreading the word about the podcast. Please keep sharing the show links on social media to your friends. On this episode, Jason and Melissa join me for a few minutes where we talk about what's been going on with us. And then after that, we've got an interview with another close friend of mine, so stay tuned. Without further ado, let's get started. It's the first time we've actually sat down and recorded for the last 2 weeks. Melissa, how's your last 2 weeks been?
They have been pretty busy, minus work. Last weekend, my sister got me a hotel room, and I was able to go to Alabama and spend my nephew's birthday with him. I went canoeing for the first time. That was fun. And I had an ADD kid in front of me. He forgot he was steering the boat, too. And we almost did a few things a couple times, but those things are durable.
An ADD kid?
ADD?
Attention deficit disorder.
Yeah. Attention deficit disorder.
Right.
Yeah.
So he couldn't remember to steer the boat?
No. He did really good for the first part of the trip. It was 4.5 miles long. And what he did was he wanted to figure out how to row the boat to keep it going in the direction he wanted to go. And as soon as he figured it out, he just quit. And he started looking around, and then I'd be like, all right, James, row 2 on one side and then row 2 on the other. And he would do that, but he would not look up to see where he was headed. It was fun. It was interesting. I had a blast, and I surprised my mama. We went bowling. I mean, it was fun. It was a really fun family outing. And then this weekend, I got some stuff done. I cleared out a room for me to do our recordings and whatnot. And my own thing, I like puzzles, so I got one in here. And I changed the oil in my truck for the first time since I got the truck. But also, it was my first time ever changing the oil, so I felt like it was a pretty big feat for me.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. I had one mishap, though.
What was that?
Well, I got an oil pan, and I set it underneath the plug. What they didn't tell me was that I might need more than one, because it filled that sucker up quick, and that's all I had. So there was a bit of overflow. I had to go out and clean the driveway off after that. But otherwise, it was successful. My truck's running. I got enough oil in it. It's brand new oil. I had to change the filter. So everything on it's good. It's had a big cleanup afterwards.
Jason, how's your last 2 weeks been?
They've been pretty well normal. The weather has changed down here in the South for the better. It feels great right now. Everything else is pretty pretty normal. I will say that something that Melissa said made me think of a story. Do I have time to tell the story?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Summer of 2002. My wife, Kay, we were dating at the time. We went to the Bear Creek. I think that's in Winston County. I'm not sure.
Technically, it's in Marion County, but keep going.
Well, anyway, she had never been canoeing before, and that's something I enjoy doing. So we went on this canoe trip, and she was in the back of the canoe. I was in the front. And most of the day, I noticed that I was having a harder time than normal paddling that canoe. It's just like, man, this is really tough. And it was about halfway through our excursion that I glanced back, and I noticed that she was just taking her paddle and dipping it in the water. She wasn't moving any water. She wasn't steering anything. She was just literally dipping it in the water.
She's making you do all the work.
Oh, 100% steering and paddling. So I was like, well, hey, wait, you're not doing that right. I explained to her how to do it, and she looked surprised. Like, oh, I thought I just stuck my paddle in the water. I said, no, you have to actually move water. You have to, and then you do this to steer it. And I think probably she just played a really good joke on me.
She did.
She was just getting out. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. But I got her back. I got her back because I've always I like whitewater rafting. I like things that are a little bit more fast, a little bit rougher.
Do you now?
Yeah. Well,
We are planning a whitewater rafting trip next summer. I'm just letting you know.
count me in because that's my great passion. I love it. I don't get to do it much, but there's nothing I love any better than whitewater rafting. We've been on this slow, easy paddling canoe trip. And I was like, man, where's the rough water? Where is the rock and roll? Well, the guy who was kind of our guide said, listen, there's a waterfall right up there. Paddle right into it and you'll get some. Me not thinking, I was like, let's do this thing. So I go paddling, and once that waterfall comes down our canoe, it pushes the canoe and me and Kay, all of us underwater. And I looked up and all I saw was white. And I was like, this is it. This is what it means to die.
You done thought you was going home to see Jesus, didn't you, brother?
I thought I was going home to see Jesus. And then I popped up and I just kind of floated down the creek and she was holding onto a rock, terrified. So I got her back on that. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with this. Melissa just made me think.
That's a bit of a get you back for not steering. I mean,
I don't think that's getting even, brother. I think that's getting ahead.
Well, you got to stay ahead because she's gonna constantly be getting me on stuff. So I got to stay ahead some way.
That's right.
That's what James was doing to me, except I was in the back and he was in the front, and he was just sticking it in the water and holding it there, but he'd forget that he had to do stuff. So yeah, I see. I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
So you feel me on that?
I do. I was like, dude, if you're not going to do nothing, at least get it out of the water.
I got a quick whitewater rafting story for you. It's been several years ago. I've been down the Ocoee River. I think it's either 3 or 4 times. I've been down it enough to actually be a guide.
Wow.
The last time that I had went down it, I had been bragging. Me being as big as I was, everybody that was in my boat had only been, I think there might have been 1, maybe 2 that had actually been down it. The rest of them hadn't. And I was like, yeah, you ain't got nothing to worry about, blah, blah, blah. And all of them had already said, if we start having problems or if I'm about to get thrown out of the boat, blah, blah, I'm going to grab a hold of you. We start going down the Ocoee. And if you've never been down it, there's a series of rapids, and then there's a real calm spot where they consider it to be the halfway point. Right at the start of that rapid, there is a humongous boulder. And anybody that's listened to this has ever been down it, you know where I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Our wonderful guide, who had just been down it enough to be a guide, make a very long story short, drove our boat right up onto the corner of that rock where I was. And our boat started taking on water. They always put your strongest paddlers and everything up front.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was. So I get up out of the boat. I've got 1 foot in the boat and 1 foot on the rock trying to push us off. Meanwhile, the head guide is coming behind everybody. He comes barreling down through there and he hits my boat in the tail end. Boat comes free of the rock. I've got a foot on in the boat, a foot on the rock. I do the splits and I go. Well, I pop back up, and anybody that's ever been whitewater rafting knows you're supposed to get in what they call the bicycle position. Supposed to go down the water or the rapids and everything, sitting straight up on your back. You're supposed to keep your feet moving in a bicycle motion. That way you don't hit rocks or whatever, because you're going to, but you can just bounce off of them. Well, whenever I hit the water, my guide starts freaking out. Swim to me. I turn, come out of the bicycle position, they call. So, I'm long stroking it, just swimming like I normally would in a pool. The head guide starts throwing a fit. Get back in position. So I get back in that. She's screaming at me again, swim to me. I had to look at him and I said, make up your mind. It was embarrassing because I had done a lot of trash talking about how I'd never went in the water and this, that, and the other. So that was embarrassing. But I actually had more fun going down the rapids without a boat than I did being in the boat.
That sounds like fun.
But my last 2 weeks was pretty good. We went on a little road trip last weekend. Me and my mom, girlfriend Stacy, and her son Xander. We went up to the unclaimed luggage store up in Scottsboro. They had never been up there. Me and my mother had. We went up there, looked around, got a few things, and went on up the road up to South Pittsburgh to the Lodge Cast Iron store. Bought a couple of things up there. And then we ended up going to Chattanooga and eating at the City Cafe. I know I have said something about it to both of y'all, but it's my favorite place to eat at in Chattanooga. It is absolutely Fat Boy approved. Anybody that goes through that area or has happened to listen that is from that area, stop in, check it out. You will not be disappointed. Hardest thing about it is actually finding a parking spot because it's very difficult to park in that place. But the food is well worth the effort. Coming up next, if you are into tech, video games, or Dungeons and Dragons, this is your episode. I had the pleasure of sitting down with a very close friend of mine a couple of months ago. His name is Preston Hooker, but all of his friends call him Tiny. We recorded in a park in the middle of town on a windy day. I cleaned up the audio as well as I could. It is what it is. Even if the subject matter isn't your cup of tea, it's still an entertaining conversation. Hope you enjoy it.
It's Terry Cagle, and I'm here with one of my very good friends, Preston Hooker. Preston, how are you doing today?
Pretty good, Terry. How about yourself?
I'm feeling like Forrest Gump sitting on this bench, brother.
Well, you know, Mama always said.
I'm too fat to be wanting chocolate right now, bro.
Yeah, you and me both, brother.
How's life been?
It's going, man. I mean, it's going. You know, 2020.
Yeah, well, do you think if we gave 2020 a Snickers, it'd be better?
Maybe it just needs to go back to bed. You know what I'm saying?
Take a nap?
Just take a nap. Maybe wake up feeling refreshed, feel a little better.
Maybe if it got laid.
I thought it took a nap there for a second when the murder hornets just went away, and then
Yeah.
COVID was back. It's like, hey, you just need to calm down.
Yeah.
Just chill out. Be fine.
Take a step back, take a deep breath.
Just a little snicky snack. We good.
Little woo-saw action
Yeah.
if you need to.
Little relaxation technique. Yeah, just go for it.
But brother, I appreciate you coming down to Jasper and meeting me and sitting on this park bench here. So, you want to tell the story about how we met?
We can certainly go that route.
Might as well give everybody a little bit of a background.
Okay. Well, we both play PlayStation a lot. And
Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
It
it
could be
is
both.
what it is.
it could be both. We'll go with that. It could be both. We actually met through one of our mutual friends, John.
Yep,
We refer to him as Little John.
that we do. Legend's about to grow. I think you're going to talk about that legendary night that we ran that Crota raid on Destiny 2. Or Destiny, rather. My bad.
Yeah, at Destiny 1, I was just going to talk about us running strikes. I really want to talk about that.
Yeah, well, go for it.
Yeah, it's one of your favorite stories to tell. You seem to tell everybody we end up talking to.
This is true.
My oldest son was just at a year old, and he needed a bottle. So I popped him up in my arms to feed him, put my controller down on the floor, propped up by a blanket, and played with my feet.
One of the parts that he's talking about, I have never in my life claimed to be a really good person on a video game. I tell everybody I suck just to make sure I keep expectations down to a minimum. That way, if I do happen to do pretty good, I exceed expectations and everybody's happy. This particular day, I was running a strike on Destiny, and I was running with what people in the game community call blueberries. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's whenever you just do random matchmaking with everybody else in the community that happens to be playing. You don't know them, they don't know you. We were struggling through a part, and I seen that Preston was online, so I sent him a message saying, "Help!"
Help, please help.
He sent me a message back saying, "Feeding my child, but I'll be there as soon as I can." So I waited around. Next thing I know, he joins in. we start in, and I hate to toot the old boy's horn too much to blow up his ego, but he's really good. We're going along. I'm dying like crazy. He's having to revive me, and we get all the way into the boss fight. And I start noticing how he's playing because I'm dying a lot. He's only moving a certain way. I ask him, I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm feeding my child. I was like, well, how are you playing? He's like, I'm moving the controller with my feet. The man literally had more kills and died less in this particular mission than I did, and he was playing with his feet. That is a true story, and I will not let him live it down.
No, you will not let me forget that one. It's
because it's a good story.
I'll give you that. It is a pretty good story. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
Especially when you were so confused. How are you playing with just your feet? I can melee and I can throw a grenade. I can get some kills. We're good. That's all I need to do.
You wanna tell them the Crota raid story?
Which one? You know how many times I run that raid?
I know the one that we all still love to talk about because that was really where we all came together and started running together as a team.
You talking about the one that dropped me the Gallahorn before everybody else had it?
I think so. Yes. It also involves our friend John, a jar of peanut butter, and a toaster. And I don't think we need to go too far into that explanation, but
yeah,
because
maybe
this might
maybe if we avoid pretty much anything John would say, we should be good.
Yeah,
there's a reason that on our Twitch channel and on our YouTube channel it says mature audiences only.
Even then, it's still suspect because
it can get rough.
we love our boy, but it is what it is, and it's not just him; it's us too.
But you know what? When you're playing a video game with a bunch of truck drivers, it's gonna happen.
Truck drivers, or at the time, COs, whatever.
Yep.
Coal miners.
It's gonna happen. So, and a security guard. One security guard.
That's right.
Love that guy.
Yes, I do too.
But yeah, I mean, we ran that raid so many times. As at some point they all kind of blend together. I know there were so many different ones that we didn't bother with the actual mechanics of that raid. We kind of skipped most of it. There was no way that we were going to do the first room, so we just ran it through, and there was no way we were going to do the second room, so we just skipped it.
That's it.
Splash damage on that mini boss and go after Crota.
That's it.
The first time we actually succeeded, I dropped Gallahorn and nobody else got it for 4 months.
I remember a lot of people in our group being very pissed at you.
Very upset. The most legendary weapon of Destiny 1. I got it on the first completion, and after that, nobody else could get it for about 4 months.
Flash forward to Destiny 2, and the story just absolutely sucks, even though we still all play it.
Yep.
Yeah, we can't get away from it.
Yep.
It is what it is. We got a lot of money invested
That's
in
what I was
that
about to
game.
say. Yeah, we've sunk so much money into it. There's really no reason to stop now.
No, there's not. I mean, we've been playing it for, 6 years now?
Yep.
So, I mean, it is what it is. I've tried other video games. It's one of my passions. I love video games.
Well,
Halo brought me back.
I have played games. I mean, the first gaming system we owned in my house was a regular Nintendo, bought the year I was born in 1986. So, yeah, I mean, I grew up around it. I remember my mom owning our first computer when I was like 5 years old. And I've always been around video games, always been around electronics, so it's just second nature for me.
I remember playing on an Atari.
Yep. Oh, I had an Atari.
I played Pong.
Yeah, we had an Atari later. I had the Nintendo first, and then it was after that. One of my cousins gave us their Atari. Then we got the SNES. The SNES was the first video game console that was actually mine. The regular Nintendo was technically my sister's. The Atari was technically my sister's, who's about 10 years older than I am. But, yeah, the SNES was the first one was mine. I probably played Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, probably 1,100 times in my life, to the point where I currently hold a world record for a speed run.
Really?
I beat the entire game in 1 hour and 57 minutes. From
Jesus.
beginning to end. I can beat that game in less time than it takes to watch some movies.
That is crazy. I played the Atari, whenever I was younger, and then one of my neighbors, whenever they moved in and everything, they brought in a Nintendo, and I just thought that was amazing.
Yep.
I remember being fascinated by Mario.
Yeah, to go from Atari to having a full 8 colors instead of 2 was just insane for people at the time. And then Super Nintendo come out, and all of a sudden you got 32 colors. What?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, it's the developments in video games is just insane.
I remember playing Mario 2, Duck Hunt. I used to love Duck Hunt.
Oh yeah. Everybody tried to shoot the dog.
Oh God, yes. And then
every time he laughed at you, won't you die?
And then I remember Super Mario 3. I don't really know which one would be my favorite, Mario 3 or Mario. I kind of have to go with the original, but I loved the graphics and everything else of Mario 3 better. It was one of the first ones that came out and close to 3D, on that original NES system.
Well, Mario. I mean, Mario transcends everything. Mario still exists.
Yeah.
I mean, I downloaded Super Mario Brothers Wii U for the deluxe one for the Switch for my sons like a couple months ago, and it's hilarious because they're like 4 and 6, about to be 7 and 5, and it's so funny just watching them try to play it, and they're just like, I can't get past this, and they watch me play it, and my oldest son just went, Daddy's a beast. So it's cleared like 5 levels. Because it's the same concept. Press B to run, press A to jump.
Well, the Mario franchise is actually the first. Would you consider second generation gaming? Whereas we grew up on it, and now our kids can. You know what I mean?
It and Zelda and Sonic.
Yeah.
Are really the 3 main franchises.
Yeah.
Sonic was Sega, but now Nintendo owns it, and Sony owns it.
I thought I was hot stuff when I got my first Sega Genesis.
Man, when we got our first Sega Genesis, the very first game we got for it was Sonic. The second game we got for it was Mortal Kombat. Man.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Back in the day, before the ESRB.
Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter.
Yep. Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter for the SNES.
Were you better on the console for Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, or was you better at the good old-fashioned arcade
I was
game?
better at the arcade.
Really?
I was actually better at the arcade. We actually did have an arcade local in my hometown, and they did have Mortal Kombat, and of course, back in the day, Pizza Hut had arcades, and they had that, and they had Primal Rage.
Yeah,
remember that?
I do remember Primal Rage.
Each other. That was great stuff, man.
Yeah. I'd go the Summerton Pizza Hut at the time. It used to have a couple of arcade games and everything else, but our main arcade was down here in Jasper at the old movie theater.
Yep.
So any chance we got in between movies and everything, we'd come down here and play.
Oh yeah.
God, that seems like it was forever ago.
It was.
Are we getting that old
so
time?
when you do the math, yeah, that was forever ago. That's.
But I got away from video games, did my own thing, and then around 2000, 2001, after the Xbox came out, I went to church and we had some kind of a get together or something at somebody's house, and I was older than most of them that were playing it, but they came in and they brought 2 Xboxes. Xbox Ones, whatever you want, or original Xbox.
Yep.
Linked them together, and they were running 8 people on a multiplayer map on Halo.
Yep.
And
that was a big deal.
Yes,
That
it
was
was.
a huge deal for Xbox. That's the whole reason the original Xbox sold the way it did. Is you could take, up to 4 Xboxes and link them together and have huge games. And yeah, I mean, I had friends that did that too.
It was unheard of in our time.
I mean,
you couldn't do
before
that.
There was the only thing you could do were LAN parties.
Mm-hmm.
If you were lucky enough to be able to play on PlayStation or on computer networks and stuff. I guess we'll cut.
don't know, Tony. Maybe we need to leave this in. We got some. What do you call this? DJ Hillbilly? That's a It sounds like a combination of a drum beat and a banjo, sir.
It's an ice cream or a disco beat. Yeah, two fat guys out here staring at an ice cream truck like they're gonna attack it.
I know, right? I don't know if I need to, bump and grind or do some kind of a two-step.
A little bit of both, bump and grind and two-step.
Yeah.
Oh well. But anyway, yeah, that was unheard of for us.
Yeah.
And it really made a difference. I mean, I owned an Xbox. A couple of my friends owned an Xbox. They had friends that owned an Xbox.
Yeah.
And we would get together and play. And that was, when we were playing Halo, that was one of the first times that really set me into the FPS genre. Like, I played Quake. I played, Quake Arena and stuff like that on the computer. And I was okay. But that first Halo, for some reason, when we would play, I could just zen out and just be this ridiculous sniper.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where they would put me in a room by myself, and then they would all be on other teams. So
Right.
that was the way we ended up having to break the teams. I was
figured
by
you
myself.
was cheating. That was the whole thing. Quit looking at my screen.
You're cheating.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, okay. So if you think that,
Right.
and that started the thing. And if you play enough games with me long enough, like if you were to play like Sniper 4 with me,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, if you hear me start whistling, I've got a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't know when it started. It wasn't a conscious choice. It was just a random little song, a little tune I started whistling, and I had a shot lined up. And I didn't even know I was doing it until somebody called me on it. And it was actually one of my friends, Richard. He said, "Why do you always whistle when you got a shot?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't do that." And he was like, "Yes, you do. We can hear you in the other room. We hear you whistling. We scatter." And I'm like, "Is that the dead giveaway?" He's like, "Dude, every time you start whistling, we're like, oh God, where's he at?" He can
It's
see
your
us.
telltale. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was an unconscious thing, but they couldn't run fast enough. I mean, every time I'd start whistling, I started paying attention to it. After that, I was like, okay, all right, cool. So I would still do it. I'd just let them line up the shot, start my little tune up, and pull the trigger. I'd line up 3 or 4 headshots before they even knew where I was at.
Well, before we get too much further, you threw out some language that maybe some of our listeners don't really know. There might be some of these people that don't play video games
FPS?
near as much as what we do.
Yeah.
Well, can you please explain what FBS means?
FPS is first
Or
person shooter.
FPS, my bad.
That's a first person shooter. It's a shooter game that is in the first person view. So your field of view is first person. The only thing you see is hands and gun.
That's it.
That's it. And, when we talk about Destiny, that's an FPS. We talk about Halo, that's an FPS. And it's a classic
Diablo.
game mode. Diablo's not.
Is it not?
Diablo is actually isometric, which is third person, the camera is up and above you.
My bad. I got Diablo mixed up with Doom.
Yeah.
Doom was one of the
Doom is an
original.
FPS. Doom was one of the original FPS.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the original 2.5D games. It was not true 3D. It looked like it was 3D because of how they rendered the graphics.
Right.
So instead of being 3D, it was just 2D graphics that stayed the same when you turned around it. So it was 2.5D.
Well, it was like Mario. It was revolutionary for its time.
Oh, yeah. ID Software did a huge amount of stuff, and everything that they did kind of changed the way gaming works.
Mm-hmm.
Without Doom, we wouldn't have had Quake. Without Quake, we wouldn't have Destiny. We wouldn't have had Halo.
Right.
Without Quake Arena, you wouldn't have games like Overwatch or Bastion or any of those.
Right.
So yeah, I mean it definitely changed the way that things worked. But it's the same thing as Diablo. Without Ultima or Ultima Online, you wouldn't have games like Diablo. And without going all the way back in gaming to Dungeons and Dragons, you wouldn't even have those. So yeah, I mean it's a lot of stuff to consider when you're talking about gaming.
Well, that was another game that I never got into, but I've always been semi-fascinated with it.
D&D?
D&D. Yeah, can you talk to our audience about what D&D is? Because I know how much you love it.
Oh, Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so we want Tiny to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. You want to be here all day, huh? Okay,
I got
cool.
nothing but time, brother.
Yes, Dungeons and Dragons. I've played Dungeons and Dragons since I was 9 years old. That was the first time I rolled the first set of dice on my first character was 9 years old. and I've played ever since then. To the point where I bought the books, I studied the languages, I studied the runes, I studied everything about D&D and the different D&D worlds. Not just one or two worlds, all of them.
How many different worlds are there?
147.
How do you keep track of them all?
Because that is my gift. I know a little bit about a lot of stuff, but I know a lot about D&D.
Where Melissa, I call Melissa the queen of useless knowledge. Folks, I am sitting next to what I consider the king of useless knowledge. So please continue, sir.
Yes, sir. Dungeons & Dragons it's a tabletop role-playing game, or RPG, where you make a character that is your role in the game, and you play. There's a couple of different ways to play. You can play what is called Theater of the Mind, which is completely 100% in your imagination. Ice cream truck again. And
You don't think they're tempting us, do you? They're like, see two fat guys sitting
two
on
fat
a
boys
bench.
sitting on a bench in a park. Maybe they want some ice cream.
They're like, I'm waiting on
We're
them.
gonna circle. They're gonna chase us down.
I'm waiting on them to pull up here and say, I need some money.
Well, all right then.
Give me that giant ice cream sandwich.
All right, fine. You bullied me into it. No.
I know, right?
Yeah, but yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. It is a role-playing game. So, but yeah, you can play Theater of the Mind, which is all in the imagination. Everybody plays a role, except for one person who plays the role of the Dungeon Master or DM or Game Master. They basically interpret the rules of the world for the players. And I know a lot of people that are like, well, the DM is technically God. Well, no, that's not true. You're there as a narrative guide. You're not there to kill the party. You're not there to make it easy for them. You're there as a narrative guide. You're there strictly to help them get from point A to point B through narrative storytelling.
So you're more of a neutral type person.
That's the way I try to be, at least. I know a lot of DMs are kind of evil. Now, don't get me wrong, I can be, but it depends on whether the campaign calls for it or not. Which most of mine, because I have a couple of different play styles with D&D. I can play a game with a bunch of beginners and kind of just help them on their way, and that's fine. But then I've got my hardcore people that play with us, like Little John or our buddy TJ. They've played for years,
Right.
so I don't take it easy on them. I give them no leeway. I give no mercy. You know the rules. You've played for years. I expect you to know that.
Right.
So when they walk into a campaign with me, they know it's not going to be a good time. They're going to have to actually try.
Right.
And dice are not your friend. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you want to do. Dice are not your friend. That's another one of my random abilities that I have no idea where it came from. If I'm rolling for myself or if I'm rolling for characters, I'm probably not going to roll great. But for some reason, if I'm rolling for a monster or a enemy, then I'm probably going to roll pretty good. That's where that Dungeon Master screen comes in play. I can fudge my dice rolls to make sure my party doesn't just immediately die in the first round. I do that a lot.
So whenever you're talking about the dice rolls, is it like it's not like a typical board game where you roll a certain number and you got to move a certain areas.
You have so many different things that you can do that the dice basically boil down to your D20, which is a 20-sided die that affects everything that you do. It's your attack, it's your ability to hit, your ability to break through armor, your skills, whatever you want to do, you have to roll a D20. If you're good at it as your character, you get an advantage. If you're bad at it, you get a disadvantage. You roll 2, disadvantage, take the low number, advantage, take the high number. It's pretty simple.
So the dice is pretty much key to everything in the game.
Right. That's the D20. That is your typical die. Everybody uses it. Even the DM, they use it for everything. And then you've got your damage dice, which are all kind of very much depending on what character you're playing is what kind of damage die you're going to get. That's going to be a 4-sided die, a 6-sided die, 8-sided die, 10-sided die, 12-sided die. So
what's the difference between each one of those?
4-sided die is pretty much going to be like improvised weaponry. Like if you pick up a rock and throw it at somebody, you're going to do so many D4 of damage. 6-sided die is usually for rogues. People that use small weapons, they do a small amount of damage. The is usually for wizards. Most of their spells are going to hit with a D10 or a bunch of D6s. The D12 is pretty much just for barbarians. A gigantic weapon is going to do a couple of D12 of damage. So, yeah, I mean, it all depends. And then there are other dice. There's a probability die, which will give you a percentage. It's two sets. It's two different die. Both of them are 10-sided. One of them has numbers going from 00 to 90. And the 00, if you roll a 10 on a D10, will make it a 100. So, yeah, I mean, it's just what your percentage is. And then the other one is a true D100. Most DMs do not use it. I do, depending on what I'm doing, because some things can do a D100 worth of damage. But that's way later on in the game.
How long has D&D been around?
Since 1972.
How much of the game has actually changed and/or evolved since?
The original D&D, the original D&D wasn't even Dungeons and Dragons. It was a war game. It was orcs and humans, and it was just a battle versus. It was just skirmishes. It was skirmish versus skirmish, and that was the first original D&D invented by Gary Gygax, and that was back in the 60s. And then he released Dungeons and Dragons, the first module, and it had like 4 races and 3 classes. And now there's so many different classes and races, and I mean it's evolved so much over the years. It's just continually changing. And you know, the first edition came out back then. Second edition, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, came out in the 80s. That was the mainstay until the mid to late 90s when the third edition came out, and then right after that they started releasing modules as 3.5. So the 3.5th edition of the game that came out, and that's when they went sort of crazy. There were like 200 something modules released, hundreds of books, most of which I memorized, several of which I still own.
He's got a photographic memory. That's part of the reason why I call him the king of useless knowledge, because anytime he reads anything, he never loses it.
Which is why I'm really good with memorizing D&D stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, 3.5 was huge. 3.5 was, that's when they either lost a bunch of fans or gained a bunch of fans. Both happened. So they gained a bunch of new fans but lost a lot of the old core people.
Because they went so far away from the original concept.
3.5 is actually my personal favorite because of how much freedom you have in making a campaign, making a character, running a campaign. It makes it more interesting because you have so much freedom. 4th edition, we don't talk about. That was a mistake. Sorry, Wizards of the Coast. Yeah, sorry, guys. 4th edition was a mistake. 5th edition fixed all those problems. So 5th edition is great. It's basically 3.5 with a lot of really good stuff in it. So like advantage and disadvantage rolls, for example, that was added in 5th edition, and it is marvelous.
What is advantage and disadvantage?
That's when you roll 2d20s. If you have an advantage, take the high number. Disadvantage, take the low number. It makes everything move a little faster. So instead of failing a check and trying to recheck it, you take your advantage or disadvantage and you take your outcome.
Okay.
Makes things run a lot smoother. And you can get advantage, disadvantage even on attacks. So it makes combat faster, makes action skills faster, makes everything kind of move a little smoother. Where used to, you could clear an entire dungeon in maybe 5 sessions at like 6 hours each. Now you can clear an entire dungeon in a session. So everything moves a lot faster.
So the 4th edition of D&D was kind of like how we feel like Destiny 2 was?
The 4th edition of D&D is Destiny Year 2, the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah. Destiny 2 Year 2 was the worst thing that happened to Destiny.
Explain.
Well, Year 1 wasn't terrible. Everything was kind of fairly balanced and it was okay. But when Year 2 hit, they changed all the stuff and tried to bring in all of these crazy sort of Armor 2.0 came in. That was stupid until they got it fixed. The weapon grind got stupid. They brought in those, what were they called? The pinnacle weapons? The ones you had to grind for at a Crucible or Zavala. Yeah, it just got stupid. I'm not a fan of it. I really do hate it. I don't mind the grind because it is a constantly evolving, supposedly MMORPG, but there are better ways to handle it. I mean, Destiny, they dropped the ball so hard on it. They're getting better since they dropped
Yes.
Activision.
Yes.
It is beginning to get better because Activision really just wanted that bottom line money and they didn't care what they put out.
No.
So
I think Activision is the main reason why Eververse exists. And if you don't know what we're talking about, Eververse is where you can actually go in and spend real money on things inside the game and not
spend
have to
real
work
money
for
on
it.
things that don't matter.
Yeah.
And it's, while I don't mind loot boxes. Okay, so here's my thing. I don't mind loot boxes to a point.
Right.
You have to have the option to gain a loot box in game without paying real money.
Right.
Overwatch has made this the best possible way. In Overwatch, you play, you go through the game, you earn levels, and every level gets you a loot box. Every time you go into the arcade mode and you play a certain game mode, you win, you get a loot box. Different ones, you can get loot boxes. Just for being a part of the game. That's how it should be done.
I've never played Overwatch.
Overwatch is an arena shooter. So it's a first-person shooter that's set in an arena. So you have a set goal for both teams. It's all PvP. There is no PvE. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of how I play Modern Warfare. Because I don't care about the campaign.
Right.
I haven't played a Modern Warfare. I haven't played a Call of Duty campaign in years.
Well, that's, I have, and the stories are pretty good, but a lot of your players that play Call of Duty could give two craps about the story.
Yeah.
The only thing they're doing is playing it for the PvP part.
Right.
Player versus player, if you're not
unfamiliar with
if
that.
you're unfamiliar with
Yeah,
it.
that's me. I mean, I did play this last one, the newest Modern Warfare. I played the campaign because it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was.
But I am still a PvP guy. I mean,
Right.
You catch me on hardcore rotations. I mean, that's all I play is hardcore.
Right.
And I have so many people that are just like, why do you play hardcore? Because it's harder.
Yeah. It's harder because you don't have to put out near as many bullets out of your gun to kill somebody.
Right, but that's also
It's
the
actually a
same
whole lot-
for your team, for the opposite team.
Right.
You also don't have a heads-up display.
Right.
So you have
And-
no idea how much ammo you have. You have no idea how much whatever you got. You don't know if you've got your kill streaks ready. You don't know if you've got any of this. You
Friendly
just
fire,
don't know.
too.
Friendly fire is a thing in hardcore. I want to say that again for the people in the back. Friendly fire is a thing in hardcore.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so if you are behind me and you fire, I'm gonna die before the enemy. Please stop shooting me in the back of the head. Thank you.
What is
All
it
right,
now?
PSA is over.
What is it now? 2 or 3 times you get booted from the match?
Now they don't even do that anymore. It's become such a problem that you don't get booted from the match for friendly fire.
Seriously?
Yeah, in the new one, you do not get booted from the match.
Jesus.
Yep.
I know whenever I first started playing hardcore, I got booted 2 or 3 times. 'cause
Yeah, now you do not get
you know,
booted. You
my-
get a respawn penalty, so it takes you a few more seconds longer to respawn. That's it. But they don't kick you from the match anymore, which is good and bad.
To me, that's bad.
Well, it's bad because griefers are a thing and they're just stupid.
Yeah.
But it's also good because if you are like throw out your white phosphorus or whatever, and you wipe an entire map full of people, eventually some of your people are going to run outside and get hit by the white phosphorus, and they're going to die, and you're booted from the match. Nah, man. There's so many different kill streaks in the new Modern Warfare that kill such a large range. It's kind of a good thing.
I'm going to have to run Modern Warfare with you. It's been a minute since I ran.
I don't know if you want to do that, Terry.
Why?
Well, you know how many ads I can put away in Destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I figure, if I run with
I
you and we're
can't-
on the same team, we're going to win
So-
more, and that means I level up quicker.
I can't play just PlayStation anymore. I have to make it load in PC and Xbox players too, because if they're running on PlayStation, it's not challenging enough, and I won't find any matches. I have to have PC players to find matches.
How do you pull that off? Because I know you're playing it on PlayStation, right?
Yeah, well, it's cross-platform
When did it go cross-platform?
when it launched.
Seriously,
Yeah, it's been cross-platform.
I didn't know that. I thought one of the very few games that was cross-platform now, because it's still a revolutionary concept that we've been talking about for 20 years.
Yeah.
And they're just now doing it because of the exclusive rights and all that good stuff. I thought the only one that was cross-platform was Minecraft.
Nope. Modern Warfare is cross-platform.
Interesting.
Yep. I have to play with PC players or I cannot find a match because it is skill based.
Wow.
Yeah. I cannot find a match on PlayStation. I'll be sitting there 20 minutes waiting for a match to load. So I have to add PC players. So I using a controller must have enemies that are mouse and keyboard in order to play that game.
Tell the people what's the difference between playing with a mouse versus having to actual mash buttons.
There's a lot of controversy over this, and I know the actual mathematics and the science behind it. The controversy is mouse and keyboard is better over controller, and that stands for whatever you're playing. The reasoning behind it is that mouse and keyboard is linked directly to the PC with no latency. A controller has a natural latency of a little under 100th of a second. Now that's not much,
But it does
unless
add up.
you're hardcore playing Modern Warfare first-person shooters like that. Then it becomes a problem.
Right.
Because you don't notice that 100th of a second, but a PC player running full specs, they're going to notice that 100th of a second. You all of a sudden lag during your turn and you just got shot. So, yeah, I have to play with PC players or I can't play.
Even if you connect the cord to the controller,
Even if you connect a cord to the controller.
still doesn't matter.
Still maintains a latency. It's the way controllers are designed.
I have actually seen a video of some of these. I've seen a kid do it. He has the keyboard kicked up here, and he's sitting there working it like that.
Yeah.
If you can't, I know you can't see me, folks, but he's literally got the keyboard that was meant to lay flat on a desk kicked up in his lap, up on his chest.
Yeah, usually they'll play like this.
Yeah.
So they have their keyboard pressed up against their chest to where the WASD keys are actually down here.
For those that don't know that, what are the WA?
WASD is literally WASD keys on a keyboard. It's typically how you move on a first-person shooter or most games that require movement on a PC. We just call it WASD because it's the quickest way to reference that. And then they usually have their mouse. I've seen a lot of people play with their mouse on their leg, and I've seen a lot of people play with their mouse flat out. It really just kind of depends. Most of those are streamers that do that. They live stream their gameplay. They say it helps. I don't really notice a difference. I mean, I own a gaming PC, and I do have games that I play on PC. I don't really notice a difference that much. As far as skill goes, I'd rather just lay it on the table.
Right.
So, I mean, it doesn't make a big difference to me.
You brought up streaming and everything. You remember just like I did several years ago whenever you started seeing videos and stuff on YouTube of people playing the games. And
Let's players, yes.
Yeah, we'd be sitting there looking at it and be like, do I really want to sit here and watch a YouTube video of somebody playing a game? And now people were making killer money doing it. It's crazy. You know, we've actually talked about doing it.
Yes, well, I actually have a streaming channel and
Do you?
YouTube channel. I have Maze Man Gaming, which I don't have much up. I have a few videos of us playing GTA, Grand Theft Auto, online up. Matter of fact, if you want to see it, that video of me outrunning John on my motorcycle while he has a tank is up. So Maze Man Gaming, if you want to check that out, that was the funniest night of GTA ever. I'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
And I also have a streaming channel that is Billion Maze or Maze Man Gaming, and it's Sometimes I stream like Jackbox games. They're basically board games that you can play with your phone.
Right.
I have all of them, so I stream those from time to time. I also stream Minecraft, and I occasionally, very rarely, stream Modern Warfare. I don't do it very often.
Why not?
Because if you stream Modern Warfare a lot, you start getting a lot of hits on Twitch, and I don't actually want that. I'd rather not have to play Call of Duty 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, because I enjoy it.
Talking about people wanting to play with you and everything.
Right. It's people wanting to play with you, and it's also people trying to offer you deals, and I'm not about that. Like, if I want to get paid to play video games, I'd rather it be like a Let's Play on YouTube, not
Right. You were talking about GTA just a minute ago, and you said you was going to get
Grand
into the
Theft Auto.
story.
Okay, so the story of the Night of the Tank. Yeah, this is one of my favorite stories that I have with playing with John. It was probably 2:30 in the morning.
Which is usually
Which
about
was-
the time
which
where all of our legendary
usually-
stories come from.
Usually when that stuff happens, it was about 2:30 in the morning. It was late, and we were already tired, but we just didn't want to go to bed, so we were just goofing off. And we started off playing what we called tag, which was you take the one-shot pistol and you chase each other around the desert and try to kill each other, and then try to kill each other off of respawns. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's our version of tag in
I've played
GTA.
tag a time or two.
Yep. And it started to escalate to where John threw a grenade at me. He started it. And I was like, oh, so that's how we're going to play. So I just started chucking grenades. We were in the middle of like the little town that's out there in the desert.
Yeah.
So people were running away. But I just started chucking grenades like over walls, over buildings and stuff. I blew him up like once or twice. And then he's like, screw this, and takes off and gets his armored car and starts to try to chase me down. To which I was like, okay. So I find a rock in the middle of the desert, and I'm just like, I need a rock in a bad way. And find a rock in the middle of the desert to stand on. It looks like I'm standing flat on the ground, so I just stand there. And he comes barreling down through the desert like 110 miles an hour, slams into this rock. I start tossing sticky C4 on him.
Right.
And he's like, oh, that's a lot of flashes. And he tries to take off. He gets turned around. I pull the trigger. Watch his car blow. And we proceed to blow up his car a couple of times. I continue standing on my rock, and he finds like this little cliff overhang. And he puts a bunch of sticky bombs on his own car and drives it off of the cliff to try and blow me up with his car.
Oh, Morse Mutual.
Oh, Morse Mutual. And he does this like 3 times, and one of them finally gets me. And I'm just like, okay, fine. So I'm just trying to run away from him at this point. I sniped him a couple of times while he goes to go get something else, and then he's like, oh, I got something for you, Tiny. Takes off toward the north, and I'm like, there's only one thing that he would have to go and get that spawns that far north on this map. That's his tank.
Right.
And I'm like, no. So I was just like, I think somebody got a tank. And he's like, no, I didn't get a tank. And then all of a sudden he goes off the radar. I'm like, yeah, you got a tank. I'm like, I didn't get a tank. I would not do that to you, Tiny.
Right.
And I hear it rolling over a hill before it tries to shoot me.
Yeah.
He, luckily, is so tired that he misses like 5 times. So he didn't kill me with a tank at all. And I spawn my motorcycle. And I grab onto it, and he's like, oh, you think you're going to outrun me on that bike, huh? Nearly blows me up. This is the most cinematic thing ever. Nearly blows me up like 3 times. And I have this thought of, I'll jump the railroad track and just get on the other side so he has to come over it. I didn't see the train. So I jump a railroad track, and this train comes immediately behind me as John fires the tank cannon. So I jump in front of a train passes, tank shell blows up on the train behind me. It looked like, what did I say? Because I actually said it in the video. It looked like some Expendables 3 shit that I just pulled. And
Michael Bay.
yeah, some Michael Bay stuff. I'm gone, and John is just outraged. He's like, train! Why the damn train? And just so mad that he couldn't kill me. By then, I was gone.
Yeah.
I was halfway downtown by the time he got around that train. Because I was in my motorcycle, and all of my stuff is decked out. So, yeah, it was a blast, and so much fun. And that's next to the end of that video, but we actually did mess with each other for another like 2 hours after that. But,
I actually miss playing that game. I mean, that's where we all met.
yeah, it was GTA.
It was either GTA or Destiny. It's where we all met Fluid.
Yep.
Shout out to you, Bubba, if you're listening to this.
Yep. Shout out to Old Fluid.
So, but
Yeah, it was, man.
Chicken,
And Chicken.
a few others, Dude, was you on there that night where Fluid pissed off the modder,
Yes.
and he ended up wearing the Ferris wheel?
Yes.
I used to have snapshot pictures of him trying to be in that helicopter
Yes, I
with that
was
Ferris
there. I
wheel.
was there that night. I was also there that he locked Fluid kid's original account,
Yeah.
putting him in a cage inside his own house. That was rough.
Yes.
But yeah. I mean, we've played a lot of games, had a lot of fun.
Yes, we have. It's been good times. I just wish there was a few more games that was coming out anytime soon that everybody would want to play like we used to.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of our friends play Fallout 76. I am not a fan of Fallout. I've tried. Like, I liked the original Fallouts back on PC. Fallout Tactics is one of my favorite games. But after Fallout 3, I was like, I'm done. I didn't like Fallout 4. I did not like New Vegas. Everybody loves New Vegas. I'm like, whatever. And then I played Outer Worlds, and I was like, this is just Fallout in space.
Right.
Whatever. I'm just not a big fan of Fallout. Elder Scrolls, however, the other Bethesda major thing that comes out every once in a while, that I adore. I am a huge fan of Elder Scrolls. Granted, my Skyrim doesn't look normal, and I own Skyrim 2 different versions. I own it on PlayStation, I own it on PC. And I have so many mods on my PC version that I have enough mods that it takes up as much as the game. So it's like 60 gigs on PC, and I have 60 gigs worth of mods that I run all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that game does not look anywhere near like Skyrim, but yeah, I still have fun with it.
Well, you know, we were talking about consoles and everything earlier. You know, with me, I know you pretty much had just about everything. Whenever I came back to the Xbox, I bought the original Xbox, played Halo religiously. Used to play Madden and some other sports games all the time. And then whenever the 360 came out, a buddy of mine by the name of Charles, that y'all have heard me talk about several times, he got an Xbox 360, played Halo and everything over there with him, while it was still the good old split screen, you know, before online stuff really came into play as hard as it has now. Right. Online play now has eliminated the split screen just about.
Right.
But we'd get over there, and there was also a franchise that I don't know if you ever played it or not, but I fell in love with it. And me and him would just about get into fist fights because we had to do it together so much.
You must be talking about Gears of War.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we had this conversation, kind of off recording. We've talked about Gears of War. I have played Gears of War. I'm just not a fan of it.
Right.
I can understand why people like it. It's just not my kind of game.
Yeah.
Like, I have nothing against it. I'm not saying, it's a terrible game. It's just not my style.
Right.
I don't hate on it. It's not what I like. But yeah, I mean, you like Gears of War, you like Gears of War.
Yeah. the 2 and 3, they were pretty good, but they just didn't have the same attachment to it, to me, as far as the story goes.
Right.
As the first one. And I haven't played any of them since. After I got the 360 and everything, I got that wonderful, fabulous red ring of death.
Yes, sir.
And after that, I went back to a PlayStation.
Xbox was notorious for that.
Yeah. After I got the PlayStation, that's when I started playing GTA and Destiny and everything, and I met y'all.
See, I'm a PlayStation guy. I don't like Xbox. My rage against Xbox started with the original Xbox. I played Morrowind, I played Halo, I had a lot of original Xbox games, and my file on Morrowind, I had well over 3,000 hours on. I mean, I had every single item in the game stored in a house. I had my game broken beyond repair because of just how many different things I did in-game with what they give you to work with to just kind of mess with. And one day we were playing said Xbox, and it caught on fire.
Literally?
Literally caught on fire.
How?
We don't know. It just caught on fire. We were just playing it, and then all of a sudden the game froze, and we were like, what the hell? So we hit the eject button, the tray comes out, and flames are following right behind it. It was actually on fire inside of the Xbox. So my friend grabs the cords to this Xbox, yanks it out of the wall, yanks it out of the TV, and throws the whole system outside. It's on fire. It's burning. And we're just watching this thing kind of slowly start to heat up and melt some of the plastic. And we're like, okay, we're done. So I had this war axe that was an actual oak handle 1040 steel war axe, and he had a military saber, like 1864 replica, but a real replica, a usable one. And we just beat this thing, just beat it to death. And I have never owned another Xbox. I still like them. I've seen so many people get their Red Ring of Death on the Xbox 360, and I've talked to so many people who have had their Xbox Ones crash. PlayStation, I've had my same PlayStation 4 for a while, and it's given me a few issues, but none of them that aren't repairable. And then PlayStation 3 had the overheating problem, but we learned how to fix that. Like, we could fix it ourselves. Literally, me and John fixed like 30 or 40 PlayStations, PS3s, and like we made money off of that. Like, $20, we'll fix it for you. Save you the headache of having to send it all the way to Japan to have them just replace some parts and send it back.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
Is it a hardware issue?
Yeah,
that makes the PlayStations everything better.
The PlayStation 3, it had a hardware issue that it would overheat and it would cause the solder points to melt and disconnect. We found that if you took a heat gun, took the whole PlayStation 3 apart, but down to its bare motherboard, and took a heat gun to the back of that, just over it, just a little bit, just enough to get those solder points to melt back into place, put the whole thing back together, run like a dream.
Really?
Over and over and over and over and over. We, matter of fact, John's PS3, the one that his daughter has now, we fixed that same PS3 probably 15 times because of the same problem, and we still know how to do it. PlayStation 4, its only flaw was a small hard drive because they started switching everything to digital instead of disc.
Right.
So throw in a new hard drive. Mine's got a 2 terabyte in it.
I don't think they realized how quickly the death of the disc was going to go away whenever they did that.
Yeah, they're starting to adapt to that with the release of PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox now, because both companies are offering an option that doesn't even have a disc drive on it.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit cheaper, and that's for both. It's going to be a little bit cheaper on the Pocketbook because it doesn't have a disc drive, and that's the one I'm going to get. I don't need a disc drive because I don't buy games on a disc. Everything I do is digital.
Yeah. I went away from disc pretty much after everything started coming out the way it did.
Yep.
On PlayStation Network, there's a lot of instances where those games that are on there are cheaper than the used ones that you can buy at GameStop. GameStop is dang near going to go under.
GameStop is going under. There's no fighting that. They sell collectibles and stuff, but other than the collectibles, they don't really have. There's no reason for you to go to GameStop to buy a game because you can wait like a month and then you go to the PlayStation store. They got a PlayStation Plus sale going. You can pick up that same game at GameStop for $40 or the PlayStation sale for $5. Why would I spend $40 at GameStop for a disc? You know, it's not worth it. So yeah, I mean, PlayStation has been undercutting everybody, and that's what they do. But you know, when PlayStation 4 launched, they took a loss on every console for the first like 30,000 consoles sold. They took a loss just so they could beat Xbox. They don't care. They are a massive company. Everybody forgets about that. Is that, oh, well, you know, Microsoft owns Xbox. And Xbox, you know, they can do more. I'm like, you really don't know how big Sony is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Microsoft makes computers and Xboxes.
Sony makes
everything.
Everything. Yeah. About the only thing they don't make is storable food.
Yeah. I bet they do if you look hard enough. I bet there's a Sony brand storable food in Japan somewhere. Probably in a vending machine.
How long do you personally, you know, you look at things like this a whole lot more than I do, and you know a whole lot more about the stuff than I do. That's why I ask you so many questions.
Right.
You know, on and off recording.
Yeah.
You know, I try to learn.
Right.
How long do you think it's going to be before PC kills the console?
It never happened.
You don't think it will?
No. Everything that they put in a console is at the top of the line for that moment. But we also get a new console about every 4 years. 4 to 5 years, we get a new console. Now, I've had the same gaming PC for 3 years, but I can keep upgrading it.
Right.
They're never going to get rid of my gaming PC. Console's never going to win. But at the same rate, consoles are easier to get. My gaming rig, if somebody were to buy my gaming rig outright and just buy one from like Dell or whatever, it would cost them like almost $3,500 to buy my rig.
Yeah, consoles are definitely cheaper.
Yeah, that's the thing that keeps consoles alive. So no, PC will never kill console because a console could sell for $700. A PC, a really good gaming PC, you're getting $2,000 for. So yeah, they're never going to win. But at the same time, there are games that are exclusive to PC that I still play to this day. There are games that are exclusive to PlayStation that I play. Xbox is actually shooting themselves in the foot by giving access for PC players to Microsoft Xbox games. So they're starting to do Xbox games that you can play on PC. Now they even have an app that you can put on your PC to play your Xbox games on your PC.
Yeah, I've got one on my laptop.
Yeah.
I've actually thought about firing my Xbox Live account up.
I mean,
if I could remember the password and everything, I probably would.
Well, I mean, that's you're shooting yourself in the foot. Why would I ever buy an Xbox if I can just play it on my PC if I want to try it? If it's an Xbox original and Xbox exclusive, I can play it on my PC. I never have to buy an Xbox. I don't need your Xbox. Your Xbox is stupid.
Yeah.
To play Microsoft online accounts, you have to have a Microsoft account, which guess what? Is still an Xbox account. So it links everything together anyway. They killed themselves on that. That was stupid.
What about that new program and everything that has come out that you can actually get the games and everything from either platform or whatever and play on PC?
That
I can't remember the name of it for the life of me.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it either. Because I looked at it and I was like, this thing is kind of gimmicky. Mainly because there's a lot of games out there that the coding doesn't work.
It sounds like GameFly. In all honesty, it sounds like GameFly.
It kind of is, and it's like I said, it's gimmicky because there's a lot of games that it would work for, but there's so many more that'll never work because the coding's different.
Well, I know at one point in time, 2 or 3 of us had talked about maybe making a transition from console to PC, and
John talks about that probably twice a year.
Yeah.
He'll just get bored with games, and then he's like, I'm going to get a PC. Okay, go ahead. Get one. Never does.
Yeah.
And, you're going to keep going back to consoles. There's no reason to say one's better than the other. That's why I own both. I own a gaming PC, but I also own a console. I have no problem with either one.
Well, the main reason why I've thought about going to PC is because everything that I watch on TV is on my PlayStation 4. Netflix, Hulu, ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, if or when I decide to watch any of that, Tubi. I've even got Pluto on there, YouTube.
Yep.
You name it.
I've even got HBO Max added.
I've got HBO Go on mine.
Yeah,
I've got a cable box, but I haven't. I think I fired that thing up 3 times in the last year.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's not a reason to have cable other than just the internet.
Right.
Why do we need cable?
Yeah.
But that's that's a whole different issue, though. I mean,
It is, but that was part of the reason why I thought about going to a PC because I could add more to it,
right.
and I could upgrade it as I saw fit. Whereas every 2 or 3 years, you're going to have to fork out $500 or $600 for one of those new consoles.
Right.
You're just like me. You don't like spending that money. Whenever I got my PlayStation 4, I rode up to Moulton and met John, and we went in there for a Black Friday deal.
Yep.
Which is a whole nother show for a whole nother day.
Right.
I've never seen people more animalistic in my life. I literally walked around with a PlayStation 4 up under my arm and a right fist balled. I was waiting to crack somebody.
Yep.
It was crazy. I don't understand why anybody in their right mind wants to go Black Friday shopping.
Yep.
I've done it one time. I will not do it again.
Same here. I've done it one time to get tablets, and that was the last time I did it. I got tablets and a TV. That was last. Nope.
Yeah.
Never doing it again.
Yeah. It was just crazy.
That was chaos, man.
And I don't get it. Why do you want to do it? There's not that much of a rush.
And it doesn't matter anyway, because that same Black Friday deals are going to be on Cyber Monday or Cyber Week now.
Yeah.
And then you wait. The thing that I don't understand about people, especially when it comes to TVs and things like that, is if you buy a TV on Black Friday for $200, if you would have waited 4 months for the new year to roll around, the new TVs come out anyway, so you still get a new TV for $200.
They don't want to wait that long.
Yeah,
They want that real nice Christmas present, I get it, but at the same time, it don't make no sense either.
Right. I completely agree.
No.
It's just chaos for chaos' sake. It's just stupid.
How optimistic are you for the new story and everything for Destiny 2?
If it's done right, it'll be great. But I've been saying that for 3 years now. So
You're right.
If it's done right, it'll be great. If not, well, I'll still play it.
I'm still invested in the story. You know what I'm saying? The actual gameplay of it, as you were talking about earlier, that grind in different seasons, especially this last season, was ridiculous.
See, I didn't play last season.
You didn't miss nothing.
No, I didn't play last season at all. I didn't play the last 2 seasons. The last season I played was right at the beginning of the season of the moon. I didn't play anymore. I played for like a couple hours. I didn't pick it up again. But right now, because of the way I am with Modern Warfare, I have to take a break.
Right.
I have to take a break from Modern Warfare just for my own mental sanity. And the reason is because with Modern Warfare, you know, they started doing the battle passes not too long ago. You know, you get earn XP playing game, earn levels in the battle pass, get unlocked stuff.
Right.
You know, pretty standard fare. Well, the past 2 battle passes for Modern Warfare, I finished in 2 weeks.
Jesus Christ, Tony.
Yeah. So I needed a break. Like, you know, the week it came out, like the day it came out, I was playing. And then 2 weeks later, I was at level 100 on Battle Pass. And that was the first one. And the second Battle Pass the third Battle Pass came out. And I did the exact same thing. In the end of the second week, I was already done.
Hear that siren?
Yeah.
I think they're coming for us.
Oh, well.
All right.
Where am I going to run to?
I'm going to be right here with you, brother. But what I was talking about with the story, Season 9, have you gotten to play any of those Saint 14 missions yet?
Nope.
You're a Titan main, just like I am.
Yep.
You know, my first character in Destiny was a hunter. But that was just because I didn't know any better, and I thought
my first character in the Destiny 1 Alpha, not the Beta. I got invited to the Alpha. Was a Titan.
Really?
Yes, sir. And I have the badges to prove that I was in the Alpha.
Yeah.
And I have always made a Titan for some reason. Just that stalwart defender of my allies has always been kind of a thing for me, and I'm just like, hell yeah, I'll be a Titan. So yeah, Titan main till I die, man. But
I love being a Titan.
now, as much as I love Saint 14, you know, I've started doing his mission, like the Trials Access mission, but I don't care. I just don't care enough about Trials.
I was talking about the missions where you actually go into the forest and everything and save him.
Nope, didn't do any of that.
Brother, though, in all honesty, whenever the moon came around with all of the nightmares and everything, to me, that season is what saved Destiny 2.
Right.
For a lot of us.
Yep.
Season 9, that was, again, Titan main. You know, I love Saint 14. Always have.
Yep.
And
his whole story was just cool.
yeah, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, there is a YouTube channel out.
My name is Bife.
Exactly.
Check him out.
Yes.
Bife is awesome.
Yeah, he's got a British accent, whole 9 yards. He will put you to sleep. He's a fantastic storyteller. It's just like, you know, getting bedtime stories told to you at night.
I know you were talking about My Name is Bife because I'm the one who introduced you.
Yes, and I have cussed you several times for doing that too.
Because he's got a lot of great videos out there, a lot of lore, a lot of information, and a lot of theories, and a lot of them actually have paid off. He's been right several times. Yeah, by all means, check him out. My Name is Bife, youtube.com.
You will enjoy it.
That's BYF, by the way.
Yes, BYFE actually, isn't it?
Nope, BYF.
Excuse me.
BYF. My Name is Bife. But he's awesome. Definitely check him out if you want to know the lore stories. He's got like 5 or 6 videos on Saint 14 alone.
Yeah. What we're talking about as far as the lore, it's the story behind the story type deal. And Tiny is the one that got me into the lore.
Yep.
You know, because we'd be sitting there playing,
and I would start explaining.
And he would be he'd be sitting there telling me the story behind the story while we were playing the story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's story missions we'd already played 20, 30 times anyway. Yeah. So it's like, why don't I expand on this?
Yeah, but knowing that got me more invested in the game.
Shift down, buddy.
Jesus. It's an automatic.
It's just, you're okay. It's okay. You got 2 other cylinders to work with.
We
Jeez.
got road rage sitting on this bench. How
Yeah,
about
right?
that?
Right? That happens, man. I mean, I was an expedited delivery driver for like 2 years. Ran all the way across the country delivering, I had to deliver in a certain amount of hours. And you drive a truck for a living,
I worked for DHL for 2 months.
Yep.
Make a very long story short, they called me one day, said, I don't think this is working out. And I said, I don't either. Y'all have a good day.
Let me put it to you this way. There was one day that we picked up just north of Birmingham, okay? Birmingham, Alabama. Picked up just north of Birmingham, Alabama. And it was 5 a.m. when we loaded out. And they told us we had to be in Kerrville, Texas by 9 p.m.
Did you channel your inner snowman?
Yes, sir. See, we're running a Sprinter van, so we didn't have a limiter.
Uh-huh.
So when we hit Texas State line on I-10, it's 85 mile an hour.
Uh-huh.
We were hammering 85. 85, 90 mile an hour.
Chugging energy drinks the entire time, too, wasn't you?
Shooting Red Bulls like they was water. Red Bulls and 5-hour energy is a combination, man. You will stay awake. But yeah, it was
That crash is hard.
5 a.m. pickup, make it by 9. If we had to be there by 11:30 p.m. to get paid. If we made it by 9 p.m., we got a $2,000 bonus.
I don't blame you.
We made it by 9. We were there at 8:30.
Did you get an extra $500?
We were there at 8:30 and made that $2,000 easy. That $2,000 went straight to our pockets. It was $1,000 a piece for me and my team driver.
There you go.
Just to make it for a day drive. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed expedited delivery. I literally left the road to take care of my son.
Right.
Like, I actually did enjoy it. I kind of miss it sometimes, but then I think I'd be gone for a week.
You'd,
It's over the road.
most people that drive, as soon as they have children, anybody that's been doing it for a long time, your veterans flat out tell you, as soon as you have a child, you get off the road.
Yep.
But
yeah.
Going back to Destiny 2 lore, we chase.
Sorry,
rabbits.
folks. This is what we do.
It is. It is. We chase rabbits all the time. At least we do catch them, because obviously we do, because we grown folks.
Yep.
But the story and everything about how when Osiris builds the machine, tries to find Saint 14, sends echoes of himself in there to the point where they go crazy and he has to retire them. He did everything in his power to be able to do it, but the frequency off of the shotgun that we allegedly gave him in some time stream, everything else, they go into details on that, and there again, with it being Saint, with it being Osiris, with it basically being a Titan heavy story, to me it was the best story outside of maybe the Season of the Drifter with Shen Malphur and the stories behind the Thorn and the
Dredgedons.
Last Word. That story is fantastic. That might be one of the best stories in the game.
I am actually a big fan of Dredged Yor. There's a lot of controversy behind that sentence, but I am a big fan of Dredged Yor. I think he may be onto something. That maybe the Traveler ain't exactly what we think it is.
I am too.
And that's one of the reasons that he left. It's one of the reasons he killed his own ghost. It's one of the reasons he embraced the darkness so easily. Is that he didn't trust the Traveler.
I'm waiting on more details of that story to come out, because we have not heard from the man himself yet. You know what I mean? Even though he is gone, you hear his story, but you hear it from other people. You're not hearing his story.
Yeah, and he had weapons, and we've used a few of his weapons. Thorn was his.
Yes.
Rose was his.
Yes.
The thing that we make into, what is it called, Lumina?
Rose was actually. I'm gonna get to talk a little bit of lore for you. He was actually a Titan.
Yep.
Raz. Come on, help me out. It's there.
It's Azir.
Azir, yeah. Ray's Azir.
It's Azir.
I'd
have to look it up.
Yeah, I'd have to too. Anyway, he goes into the Crucible and everything, and his weapon is the Rose.
Yep.
And then he goes to the moon, and at that time it's still forbidden to go to and everything like that. He goes in and he kills a knight, and a witch actually curses the bones.
It's the moon. It's the moon that starts talking to him. He starts hearing whispers from the moon.
Okay. I thought the witch actually put a curse on the knight's bones because he killed her lover.
No, he started. It's Raziel Azir.
Yes, I was close.
Raziel Azir. He was the first Titan.
The actual first Titan?
Yep, according to everything, yeah, he was actually the first Titan. He had an auto rifle named Inferno and the hand cannon Rose.
I've never seen the Inferno.
It's not a thing we've ever seen.
Mm-mm.
It's just listed some of the lore stuff. But yeah, he was also human. He was also since he was the first one, he was actually the Vanguard Titan.
I did not know that.
Yep. He was the Titan Vanguard before everything went down.
See, I thought Saint 14 was the original Titan Vanguard.
Nope. Azir was first. Titan was Saint 14 was second.
Wow. I did not know that.
Saint took over after Azir left.
Off record, you're going to have to show me where you find some of this stuff.
Yeah, because I found that quick.
Because there again, you have created a monster here. I just want you to know this.
It's actually Destinypedia.
Okay. But yeah, the story that I heard and everything was he went in and he actually killed a knight. I could be wrong, but he either killed a knight or a witch, and the witch actually had the bones and everything that he put on the rose as a trophy. They ended up corrupting the rose, and they were the ones that were whispering to him and everything else, and it corrupted him, as I'm holding up Dr. Evil quotation marks. And in the path that we did, that our Guardian does in creating the Lumina, he infuses it with light just like he did with Thorn. But the original Thorn actually transforms back into the rose the more light that goes into it, and then it transforms even more the opposite way with the Lumina.
Yep. Yeah, Into the Darkness. That's part of his storyline. He heard whispers and had strange visions from the moon first. Then he went and met Zyor the Blessed, who was the Hive Witch, and eventually he did kill the Hive Knight while in the Hellmouth on the moon.
Yeah. The Hellmouth, for those of you that don't know, it's a very humongous hole right in the center of the moon. With the hive, the higher level up you go, the further down you have to go. It's right the opposite. Where our character is light, theirs was more darkness. So the further down you go, the more powerful hive you got. Anyway, please, sir, continue.
Shin Malfoy is actually the one who killed him.
Yes. That story is really good.
Yes, it is.
Because Dredgen actually killed his mentor or whatever, and then he ended up giving the last word to the ghost who was his mentors, and then the ghost ended up giving it to him as bait.
As a matter of fact, the name Dredged in Yor is from the Hive language, and it means the Eternal Abyss.
Yes, it does.
The Eternal Abyss, the Endless Darkness.
Yeah.
So,
Once again, Tiny, thank you for hooking me up on the lore stuff.
You're welcome.
So, I know we're probably running a little bit short on time, but I appreciate you coming out here. I appreciate you meeting me. I want you back on the show as often as you want to come on. Me and you can talk all day.
Yeah, we can.
You got anything you want to plug? You want to plug your gaming stuff?
Mazeman Gaming. You can always check it out. Please, everybody, go check out Critical Role if you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons. Critical Role is a podcast / YouTube show. They do theirs full sessions at a time. So strap in to watch it for a while. You can break it up into your own episodes. I would definitely suggest that. I usually only watch it for about an hour at a time because they can run like 6-7 hours per episode. So yeah, but check them out. If you like voice actors at all, which I do a little voice acting on the side, check out Matt Mercer's Critical Role. It is awesome. It is literally a group of voice actors that are best friends playing Dungeons & Dragons. And it is the funniest thing ever because Matt is the greatest DM to ever have existed. I wish I could be as good as Matt Mercer.
Also, I'm going to go ahead and throw out a plug for Bife.
Yep.
You know,
my name is Bife.
we've talked a lot of Destiny here because that's one of the games that me and him have played the most together.
Yep.
And the story, in our opinion, is really good and it's worth checking out.
It's the story that's even further than the game. I mean, even if you don't want to play the game Destiny, you can learn so much about the story of Destiny and just the history, the lore, the Golden Age, the Dark Age. Learn it. Just go check out My Name is Bife for his lore videos. They're awesome.
I've got 2 videos from him that I'm going to highly recommend. One is the complete story of Destiny.
Yes.
Okay, it goes from the very first parts of the lore that is available all the way up until the current point at the time that video was made. The second one I want to talk about is the sequel to that he made to add to it. It covered 3 or 4 seasons after he got done with that original. So
He does have a new video up.
yes, and it's current.
Yes.
So any of these other stories that we was talking about, for example, every one of them he has done a story on. You can go back and you can watch those videos. You can critique us and say we said something wrong if you want to.
Yeah, by all means, leave us comments.
Absolutely. But thank you, Tiny. I'm not used to calling you Preston. You're always Tiny to me.
Tiny is what everybody called me. Everybody either calls me Tiny or Maze, so I'll answer either one.
So, I love you, brother, and I appreciate you coming down here, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely.
That's all the time we have for this episode. Please like the page and join the group on Facebook at Porch Matters Podcast. Please subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or the platform of your choice so you don't miss an episode. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, please rate the show and leave us a review if you have the time. Thank you very much for listening, and catch us next time right here on Porch Matters.